Welcome to the Content Matters podcast, where digital content and marketing pros talk shop. Tech may be changing fast, but great content is timeless. Get inside tips, trends, and practical know-how from the top minds in the digital content industry. Sponsored by Ingenix, the uniquely agile content management platform. Michael Meinhardt is the founder and CEO of Cloudwords, a globalization automation software company. He joined us on the Content Matters podcast to talk about the challenges global companies often face when dealing with translation management. Today, a lot of the translation process is manual and time-consuming. Think cutting and pasting into spreadsheets, into translation service provider software, and it just really slows down the delivery of global campaigns, which we all know means that it's slower revenue generation. We talked about the benefits of globalization, and Michael mentioned a maturity curve that his company has developed that helps you see where your company currently sits and how you can adjust your operations to improve global initiatives. It was a really good conversation, and I think you'll get a lot from it. Enjoy. You founded Cloudwords, which it's a translation management company in 2010. What made you decide to start that company?
Yeah, well, first of all, Barb, thanks so much for having me on your podcast. Totally honored and appreciate the ability to do this.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes, we started Cloudwords a decade ago, so we've been around for 10 years, and we are honored and humbled by the fact that some of the world's largest brands trust Cloudwords to help them create multilingual content at scale and at a speed that they were unable to achieve historically. We're very lucky and very humbled by that fact. When we started the company in 2010, yes, we did kind of define what we were doing as translation management automation, but we found that was very close to a lot of the systems that people might be more commonly referring to as translation management systems. And we'll get into that, I think, later in our podcast, but we'll make the delineation between the two. But frankly, what we saw in the market was something where, I've been selling translation services, and there's like 30,000 translation agencies out there that actually do the translation. And, we decided we didn't want to be a services company. We wanted to be a software company. So we set out to do just that. And really in the beginning, Barb, what we were doing was we were helping these large enterprise customers eliminate spreadsheets as part of their project management process, eliminate email communication, and really kind of help them redefine how they were thinking about creating multilingual content. And, for them, it would have been very manual. That's the way it was. That's the way the world was working, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even. And with the advent of, systems like marketing automation, enterprise ready web content management systems and the like, frankly, we just felt that these customers needed a better way to manage their business globally. And, we found a corner in the market, and we've been optimizing against that for the last 10 years.
I think I'd like to maybe kind of go in with what you kind of mentioned at first there was kind of the idea that you're not exactly a translation management company. You're something more than that. Like, yeah. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things where, we're carrying a flag, which we actually now define as globalization automation. Okay. Translation management systems historically have been around for 20, 25, 30 years. And the systems themselves that were developed originally in the market were designed for the localization service provider. So it was on the vendor side, frankly, that a lot of these technologies were being built. Computer-aided translation, which is basically what a translator would use. Right. And then you have these translation management systems that were being bought by the translation agency. And it was really defined as, a way for them to basically manage their projects, manage their customers' intake, if you will, for all of those translation projects they were doing. And then ultimately carving those projects up and sending them out to individual translators, of which there are millions around the world. And so we felt like there wasn't technology that was being developed for the customer, for the end customer. And so, when we look at the market today, and again, we're, hindsight's 2020, but when we define globalization automation, customers are investing in globalization automation, much like they invested in marketing automation, much like they invested in Salesforce automation, to really help propel their businesses forward. And so when we're talking to these customers, they're frankly not that interested in, of course, they're interested in it at some level what it's going to cost. But what they're most interested in is, how can I propel my business forward in EMEA or APAC? And how can I do it at a scale and a speed that, frankly, wasn't available to me previously? And so we are designing software for that end customer, not the translation agency, not the translator, but rather those companies that are ultimately procuring those services. So we've looked to optimize the speed and certainly the scale at which they're able to address those markets faster, in the interest of reaching, prospective new customers faster, driving pipeline, driving revenue in those new regions. So it's really that kind of delineation. Globalization automation is really something that an enterprise customer needs to think about in conjunction with all of the other technologies they're acquiring. And translation management systems, frankly, are best suited for the localization service vendor community, the people that are actually doing the translation services. And that's the way you see it played out in the market today.
That's really interesting, because I wouldn't have really thought there would be a difference between the two. But when you describe it, there is. Actually, I understand it. So how does it work though with one of your customers using your system?
Yeah, I mean, we're, again, as I mentioned at the top, we're very fortunate that some of the world's largest brands have chosen to trust CloudWords and partner with us, and so they've honestly been a huge part of helping us to redefine the market and ultimately build a better offering. But let me give you an example. We generally work in 3 different industries, most commonly in software, technology. We also do find ourselves in medical, life sciences, as well as financial services. But if we just take, one of our larger customers that are based up in Seattle, they were developing 2,000 assets a month, so marketing assets, and they had to move those assets into 60 different languages. So Barb, essentially this organization was having to essentially manage 120,000 assets per month through a multilingual content creation process. And prior to CloudWords, and the globalization automation that they brought in, it used to take them 9 months to localize and create multilingual content for that 1 month worth of content. Well, that's a really long time. And, fast forward, they brought CloudWords in, and we've brought now, by them using globalization automation, we've brought that 9-month process down to 3 weeks. So practically, from a business standpoint, this organization has 8 months worth of pipeline that they didn't otherwise have. And when you look at it just from a pure business standpoint, they saw an increase in leads by over 400%. They saw an increase in pipeline in those regions by over 40%. And they saw an increase in revenue, which is what we're all after here, by over 9%. So we're talking hundreds of millions, billions of dollars that could be achieved by properly implementing and have a strategy in place, frankly, around globalization automation, because there's so much content that's being produced. Frankly, the customers, and certainly the future customers with whom I speak, they see it as a competitive advantage. And I couldn't agree more with them. If you can get the alignment internally to rally around the end customer and what that end customer experience is going to look like, and you can get that experience to market faster than your competition, you're going to win.
What is globalization automation? Like, what is it exactly, and how does it work?
Yeah. So much like Marketo and Eloqua and ExactTarget really kind of defined marketing automation, much like Salesforce really defined Salesforce automation. We're defining globalization automation as a strategy and a commitment to growth globally, And when you talk to these customers and they've invested in these other enterprise ready technologies, one of the biggest gaps that they find is that when they need to ultimately begin to create multilingual content, which they all do, frankly,
Mm-hmm.
they fall down. And the difference really, and not even I would say the difference, but the added value that you get with globalization automation as opposed to translation management is every translation agency out there is going to have a different translation management system. So if you're a large enterprise customer and or even a medium mid-market for that matter, and you want to work with ABC translation agency, and then you have your European team that wants to work with XYZ translation agency, you're going to be working with multiple different translation management systems. And the beautiful thing about globalization automation is it's one platform connected into your entire technology stack. And it really gives you the flexibility to work with whatever translation resource you want. You can work with, an agency here in North America. You can work with, 2 in Asia, 3 in Europe. It really gives you that flexibility to allow for, the commodity that is translation today. And so if you start to really think about it that way, and you optimize around ultimately the notion that you're driving your business forward, that you're generating pipeline and reaching your customers faster, you're just going to be in a much better spot. So globalization automation gives you the flexibility. It gives you the visibility across the board in terms of how you're creating that content for your international markets. It provides accountability across the entire team. And then what we're seeing right now, Barb, which is really interesting, is that, as companies, certainly we're in this COVID world, as companies accelerate into their digital transformation processes and strategies, it's funny, but not surprising, that they're looking at work management platforms like Workfront, and they're integrating, CloudWords as a component of that. And so, we see ourselves as a very key element to the global digital transformation process that, frankly, you're just not going to rely on a translation services company to help you do.
A quick pause to say thank you to Ingenix, the Content Matters sponsor. Ingenix is a leading provider of agile content management solutions. You can check them out at ingenix.com. Is this something new that enterprise companies really should be thinking about, a new way to look at how they deal with their translations and to improve customer experience?
Oh, I think completely. I think, again, the great thing about what we do, Barb, is we don't have to convince anyone that they need to translate content. They're already doing that. And frankly,
Right.
They've been doing it for, I'm sure, hundreds of years. We have a great customer in Germany, Merck. Merck's been around, I think, since the 17th or 18th century. And so, some of our customers have been around for quite a while. And, we don't have to convince them to communicate with their international customers or global customers in their native language. That's already there. What we do have to help them and guide them on, and frankly, it's why we built out a globalization automation maturity model, is we help to guide them down the path and on a specific journey that's going to get them to a path that enables them to achieve the scale that they need to achieve at the speed that we know is available. And so when we do begin to engage with these customers, and certainly with our future customers, that's kind of the first place we start, is we try to understand where is this group or where is this organization in their journey. Even though you may be a very large organization, you may be very early on in your globalization automation journey. You may be a mid-market company, maybe a smaller enterprise company that may be further along. And it really depends on, I think, leadership inside of those organizations. How serious and how committed are they to their digital transformation process globally? What technologies have they acquired or invested in as part of these technology stacks that's going to enable them to achieve those desired results? And for us, we like to work with everybody along that spectrum, provided that they're committed to ultimately making their their employees and certainly their team's lives better, but most importantly, that have a vision to really kind of optimize that customer experience. And so, when we go in, we have a process that helps to identify where they're at in their own journey, and then we provide them with a phased approach that typically lasts 3 to 5 years in terms of where we're going to go with them, how we're going to partner with them, and other kind of I gotchas that might be down the road. Because one of the things that I'm most proud about is when you look at the CloudWords customer base today, the average life cycle of a company. So in terms of how long our customers have been with us, on average, it's over 5 years. So when we get involved with certainly companies that are very focused and very committed to global digital transformation, great things happen.
Here's a question for you. I think the content itself has become much more important to companies, much more important. Maybe they always thought it was on some level, but they just thought, create a piece of content, put it out there. Now they're thinking in terms of, I've got to create this content for multiple audiences or multiple countries. It has to be in different languages, but it also has to be localized a certain way because everybody, different countries, different areas, think of things different, say things different. I'm just curious why you might think, why has it taken some companies so long to realize that globalized content is a lot harder to do than just write the content, throw it out to a translation provider, and then publish it up on the language version of whatever country you're in?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, look, for us humans, I think change is hard. I think change within, just if you think about just changing habits is hard at a human level. When you talk about, having to change process, change just a way of thinking inside very large enterprise organizations, and the amount of people that you have to convince and convey convey the added value to as you're going through this process. It's quite a few people. I mean, oftentimes when we first engage, Barb, we're having to talk to anywhere from a dozen, so 12 to 20 people to get them on board with a new process. And for us, we're happy with that. It's one of those things that our best and most committed customers take a very deliberate approach to how they implement and think about global strategy, which frankly, I appreciate. This is not something, it's not like our customers are buying pencils or,
Right.
desks for an office. They're actually investing in a better way to communicate and engage with their existing and future customers. And so that takes great care. And oftentimes, it can change, but oftentimes it's a top-down approach. But we also see situations where there's a bottom up in terms of that kernel of an idea gets floated up into the executive and the officer level to really drive change. But oftentimes it's from the top down, and it's one of those things where the CEO and the C-suite is committed to improving their customers' experience globally. And that's just, part and parcel with what they do. Now, does it happen overnight? No way. It doesn't happen overnight. It generally takes, a year or two in terms of really getting, people committed to the cause. But, that's okay with us because, as I mentioned, the average life cycle of our customer base is over 5 years. And so we're in it for the long haul with our customers, with our partners. And so that's just fine with us. And it's one of those things that as we look to the future, we absolutely are looking at different ways to add value and improve upon the speed with which our customers are reaching those customers. And we're looking at different elements around AI and machine learning that are going to help our customers get there faster. So more to come on that. But I think the answer to your question is quite simple, is that change is hard for us humans. And I think it's one of those things that if you can find those individuals internally that are a bit more forward thinking or a little more committed to it, and it impacts them immediately, I think you're going to be in a much better spot.
That makes sense. So when a company reaches out to you, to your company, to to employ your software, like what are the biggest challenges that kind of drive them to look for a solution like yours?
Yeah, it's funny, and that's a great question. I would say the number one reason they ultimately, if they find CloudWords, is because they're dealing with some very sophisticated technology across their technology stack. Okay, so they're investing in things like Adobe technology or Experience Cloud. They're investing in things like across the Oracle stack. They're investing in things that may not be from either of those two technologies. They may be investing in Genius, and they're finding that that what they have to do today is actually quite manual. And so we bump into situations at the outset where literally they are copying and pasting in and out of those content systems into a Word doc, sending that Word doc via email to a translation agency. That translation agency, assuming there's 20 languages, is sending them back a zip file with 20 different files. Then there's some poor person on the customer side that has to literally copy and paste each language back into that source content system. So what we find is are situations that are actually quite manual, and they're basically. I do feel for these people because oftentimes when we do initially engage, they are tearing their hair out with this process, and when we show them what is possible with CloudWords and globalization automation, it's let me just put it more clearly. When we were first starting CloudWords, somebody asked originally, one of the investors asked, are you a vitamin or are you an aspirin? Meaning, are you going to help maintain the body of energy, or are you going to cure a pain? And very much, I can unequivocally say now, we are very much an aspirin. So we're providing that sense of relief to those poor individuals internally that are frankly having to manage a very manual process with a very sophisticated marketing technology stack in general. So I would say that's number one. Number two, some companies have attempted to integrate a service provider translation management system. That doesn't always go off very well, primarily because, again, those organizations are not software companies, they're services companies.
Right.
So they just don't have the rigor, if you will, when it comes to developing software. But that's not their primary core business. So I get it, but we find ourselves coming in and kind of doing a lot of, hey, we need to save the day kind of implementations.
That's I like the aspirin kind of metaphor. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wish it was
So
mine. It's not mine. Somebody asked me that one time.
yeah, that's okay. I might use it though. Um, so if when you start with a company, what are the key, like, because you sound like you're much more of a partner, like you said, you don't just give them the software and a little bit of training and walk away. Like what for you are the recommended kind of key steps a company needs to take to ensure that they're developing this globalization strategy the right way?
Yeah, I would say, well, first and number one, I would say you have to find the commitment internally. Is there a commitment to improving the business process of essentially creating multilingual content for the reason of providing a better customer experience, for your current and future customers? You have to find that commitment first. If you don't have the commitment internally, it's going to fall down. It's going to take a heck of a lot longer. So that's what we look for first, is we look for that commitment to global digital transformation. Once we have that, then it actually becomes it's quite a straightforward process in terms of really taking a look at where are these customers going to get that initial kind of bang for their buck or initial kind of immediate ROI when it comes to kind of creating that multilingual content. And oftentimes, honestly, Barb, it's in those areas where I describe that manual process. It's where that manual process pain is most acute. So we really look for those situations where, okay, where can we come in, have an immediate impact, show value quickly, um, uh, demonstrate that value across the broader team. And ultimately then, we found that we have a partner for life. And so for us, it couldn't be more perfect to help them do that. And I'm pretty proud of the CloudWorks team when we do have those customers that come in with a very manual approach. We obviously over the course of our relationship really help them drive demonstrable value out to their customer base, and that there's nothing better than that, frankly.
Yeah. So the quick hits is that's your kind of phased approach. Go in, do the assessment, look for some quick hits. Like, that's what you mean when you say it's kind of a 3 to 5 year phased approach to really get value back?
No, I would say customers are probably seeing value within 30 days of our
Okay.
relationship. I would say, but when when we talk about nirvana or utopia, it's one of those things that our customers today, because they've been with us for quite some time. It truly, it's like a fine wine. It gets better with age, and with us, we look for those types of relationships where companies are committed, truly committed to driving value for their end customers, because then it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for our customer's customer. It's a win for our customer, and it's a win for CloudWords.
You've got quite an experience. I was kind of peeking at your LinkedIn profile. What made you get interested in the translation and the globalization aspect of customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I was quite young, I was very fortunate growing up. My mom actually worked for American Airlines, and so when we were younger, we traveled the world, and it was great. And I really kind of started to have an appreciation for different cultures. And obviously, people that in third world countries, first world countries, and how we're all human at a very core level. And so, when I look at globalization automation, my kind of thought process on it is, if I can help Merck, develop and engage with their customers faster, we're making the world a better place. If I can help our technology customers improve the speed at which they're able to engage with their customers, and those customers can build life-changing products for parts of the world that need that help, then I like to think that CloudWords is benefiting the greater good at a human level. And so, yeah, in looking at CloudWords, at its core, we are helping to redefine, global digital transformation. But
Mhm.
really, the why behind it for me personally is there a path to helping, the world become a better place? And that's my hope.
That's a great hope, a great goal. Well, great. This was great. Thank you, Michael. It was a great conversation.
Yeah,
And
thank,
you're, you're,
thank you, Barb.
you're definitely making me rethink, I guess, my initial thoughts around translation management and how it's much huge and much bigger and important than a lot of companies probably give it credit for, even though they are global companies.
Great. Well, look, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I hope somebody gets some value out of this. So that's great.